What's going on, y'all? J-Rides Moto here. Welcome back to another video. Oh man, I've been waiting to make this video because I've just, for the past, I'd say, 3 weeks, coming up on a month, I have been busy with some new stuff, some old stuff, just managing a lot of stuff. And here we go. You read that title right. I sold Suzie. Yeah, just talk about a whole story time. We have a lot to talk about today, guys. It's been a short time coming, actually, because a lot of people say, oh, it's been a long time coming. No, it's actually been a short time coming. So yeah, I sold her, and along the way I made a lot of mistakes, and I really want to share this with a lot of you who are either new riders thinking about getting into riding, or you bought your first bike and your parents have helped you and you're going to independently, maybe you moved out and you're going to buy your own bike on your your own terms, your own accord, just by yourself if you don't have a friend you're going with. So please, for the love of God, just sit down and listen to me yap for 19 minutes, okay? Or however long this video takes. So yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm talking rookie mistakes, like trusting a sketchy listing, not bringing anyone mechanically inclined or someone who's been a rider for a long time, not doing like a full inspection of the bike, and just getting caught up in the hype of riding a fast bike. And I had only been riding for a few months, so I mean, I thought I knew enough, but clearly I didn't. Okay, so just for some context, I actually had a Ninja 400, if you're new to the channel, for about 5 or 6 months, and I rode the hell out of that thing. I got it about 5,000 miles, and I sold it with about 11,000 on it, so I had been riding that. And I started in August, so I actually had a late start to the season, right? Because I had just gotten back from Korea, I had moved to the US, and I was like, oh, I want a bike, so, started the season late. What can you do whenever the Air Force wants to PCS you out, right? So I rode it around, I had fun, but, as the story goes, you want more power, you want an upgrade. So I had this whole thing where I sold it to this one guy, and as of recording this video, he hasn't even titled the bike. So I've literally told him, dude, if you get pulled over, for a fact it's gonna get towed back to a junkyard, and there's nothing I can do about that, right? So I think that's really dumb. That's just a side note. I'm just like, what the hell, dude? I remember my dad specifically not telling me to go out to West Virginia that day, to check the bike out by myself. He's like, all right, just wait for me. Let's go next weekend. But I was impatient and stubborn. Okay, that is the word of the day. Impatience. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to ride with my friends now because I had just seen them all on Instagram, all on Snapchat, like, oh, we out here riding. And, it was kind of getting into the season, so I could have afforded to wait, but I was so goddamn impatient, guys. It was terrible. So anyways, I pull up to West Virginia, to the guy's house. He seems really cool. And I remember when I first took it out of the shed, it was so beautiful, dude. This Gixxer was amazing. And even though it looked decent in the photos, deep down, I just wanted to think it was clean. But in reality, I didn't do a full inspection. All I did was check for black smoke from the exhaust on the startup, which, to be fair, was kind of smart, but that's basically it. That's like just wearing a helmet and gloves when you ride. No pants, no jacket, you know what I mean? I wasn't checking the fork seals, no brakes, no suspension. And I remember I had previously asked the seller about maintenance, but there were no records. He literally insisted that he got it served at the Suzuki dealership or one of the bike dealerships nearby, but he was a liar. Oh my God, he was a liar. Just keep watching and you'll see. And this part stings me the most because I knew better. The Ninja 400 was fine. It ran perfectly. It was forgiving, nimble, exactly what I needed to continue learning on. The issue was I didn't want to be the slow one anymore, like I said. In terms of straight line speed, I'm not talking about going to the track, not talking about dragging knee. Straight line speed, or, highway curves, I had outgrown the Ninja by a large margin. Riding behind my buddy on his CBR6 and all the leader bikes, I just felt like a step behind, no matter how hard I pushed, and it just makes sense because it's a small little twink, right? It's just frustrating, so I'm like, damn, I need that 600. That pressure mixed with that raw excitement of just upgrading, it really did cloud my judgment. I was focused on what I wanted, more speed, more power, more respect, and I just overlooked the reality. And here's the kicker, guys. I remember seeing an even cleaner ZX6, which was objectively better in every way, shape, or form, right? It had fewer miles, it was an old guy selling it, and it was $7K. I actually got the Gixxer for $6, and dude, I wish I would have bought that. I wouldn't have been in the situation. But if I didn't buy the Gixxer, I wouldn't have gotten the next bike, which you guys will hear about later. Okay, so we're in West Virginia, right? We test ride the bike. You guys saw that video.
Holy that's fast as dude. Oh my gosh! Yo! Oh my gosh! Oh, that's so fun, dude.
Yeah, I was ringing it out in first gear and second gear, flying at 90 miles an hour, just grinning like a maniac. And coming from a Ninja 400, where hitting 120 miles an hour was so difficult because you had to be in the right conditions, you had to be tucking, you had to be going downhill. When I saw the Gixxer did that as a joke, I got the rose-colored glasses, guys. I wasn't thinking about no inspection reports. I wasn't thinking about no maintenance history. I wasn't thinking about crash history. Rose-colored glasses, guys. They force you to do some bad things. Let me tell you. Okay, so the bike is towed back home at this point, right? And right after I bought it, I rode it for a little bit, and then I was like, oh, the fork seals are leaking. When I went to actually pointed it out, and I was like, I did not know that. I thought I was just gonna get on it and ride it. Stupid me, right? The problems just like started showing up like dominoes, dude. I mean, you can even see it. I'll pop it up on screen. It was brake pads that were worn, new rotors, they were warped. Brake fluid had not been flushed in a while. And there was just a couple other stuff which you'll read, but yeah. Guess how much the repair bill was, guys? $2,894.83. Yes, you read that right. Just to quickly break that down, that's about $1,500 in parts, $1,394 in labor. I mean, yes, if you had the skill to do it yourself, this wouldn't have been as bad of a buy. I mean, it was still kind of bad, but yeah. On top of how much I paid for the Gixxer was $6,000. Yes, I know that's way overpriced. I should have negotiated for a 2007 GSX-R600 with 17,000 miles. That is overpriced, man. He got away with highway robbery on my ass, okay? But at the time, I just justified it by saying, well, at least the engine's strong. It's a Japanese, not a finicky Euro thing, you know? So yeah, nearly dropping $3,000 on repair. It sucked. I mean, it hurt my wallet. I felt dumb for getting into a muddy pit. That was literally my fault. It was no one else's fault but my stupid impatience. Now here's the biggest kicker. The bike was lowered and I did not know that. And I'm not talking about the clean, adjustable way that, you know, the mechanic shop does it. Someone straight up cut the rear spring, and then also, I believe they cut the dog bones and welded them. They didn't even want to buy a whole one. It was so ghetto. My buddy, he used to work in a mechanic shop, when he was looking under, he literally said, bro, that's sketch. You need to get that replaced. But I will say, welds like that can hold up if they've done correctly, because I was taking curves at 150, 160 on the highway, and they had held up. I mean, it is a metal weld, so it's not necessarily going to crack, you know? And when I had taken it to my mechanic, I'm talking about after the bill, he said he needed to assess it further because he's like, you might need a whole new rear shock. But he wouldn't have known until he took the back wheel off and actually looked at it, right? If he needed a new rear shock, that would have been about $400, including parts and labor. And by that point, I knew I couldn't keep throwing money at this money pit, right? Because the Gixxer was fun and fast. The only issue was I picked up a money pit. Even Japanese, you know, bikes can be money pits if the last person or the last 7 people who own the bike absolutely just f***ed it. You know, I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it, because when I look back and step at it in like a 360-degree view, right? It's not the worst financial mistake in the world. Think about it. Some people buy a house and then they find out there's like mold in the wall or something, and that's more of like a $300,000 loss. Or imagine knocking up a girl when you're 19 years old and getting locked up into child support for the next 18 years, okay? That's a lifelong commitment. That changes everything. So, you know, I know those are a bit extreme, but compare my financial mistake to those. Yeah, my mistake, while costly and frustrating, it came and went, you know. Money comes and goes, I get it, but the bike was something I could always sell, walk away from, and, you know, it's not going to permanently damage my future, right? And I think I just proved that with the fact that I just sold the Gixxer. So yeah, hard lesson, but not the end of the world. Gotta take the L, guys, sometimes, right? So this is actually gonna be the interesting part that people are wondering about. Why did I sell the Gixxer? So there were a couple reasons why, and you guys kind of watch them in real time. So for starters, I had already squeezed out what the bike could do for me. I mean, I could hit 130 miles an hour like a joke. I was hitting 165 miles an hour almost every single time I got on the bike on the highway, right? And it was a lot of fun, but there would be times when I'm riding and there is space ahead of me where I know I can go, but the bike doesn't have the capability simply because it's a 599cc engine, and I know I have highway in front of me and I can go. I'm talking about straight line speed because I don't really care for curves or for going into the track for that purpose. That's another video, why I won't ever go to the track. We can talk about that later. First, let's talk about about the bike being lowered, right? So I'd take it out on twisty back roads thinking I was going to unlock the full sport bike experience, but it didn't feel right? I was watching TV Be Corrupt, I believe that's his name is, and one time he was talking about lowered bikes, because I had never really heard the term until he talked about it. I knew people had lowered their bikes, but I didn't really know much about it other than for drag racing, right? And he was talking about how it affected the geometry of the bike.
I'd never lower a motorcycle. I get this question asked all the time. If I claim to be relatively short or feel the need to tiptoe my motorcycles, why don't I just lower them all? Quite frankly, adding a lowering link to any of my motorcycles just doesn't fit my style of riding. For shorter riders, yes, lowering a motorcycle does assist you in flat-footing the bike, and overall just increasing comfortability while being on the bike. But with doing that modification, you'll have to pay a price. For one, lowering the motorcycle does bring the chassis of the bike closer to the floor, and if you find yourself frequently operating your motorcycle on the public road, potholes and dips will become your worst nightmare, as oftentimes when operating a lowered motorcycle, they either cause riders to scrape their oil pans or even crack them. But the main reason I wouldn't prefer it because it throws the geometry of the bike completely off. The way the bike leans, the way the bike tips into a turn, how much you can actually lean the bike, all gets affected just from doing something as simple as installing a lowering link. Mainly, it just doesn't go with my style of riding, and honestly, it would be extremely inconvenient. If I was road racing or even drag racing frequently, I wouldn't be opposed to having a setup like such, but that's not all I do. But for me to still enjoy canyon riding, wheelies, and even functionally operating the motorcycle on a daily basis, lowering the height of any of my bikes wouldn't be ideal at all and would honestly probably cause more harm than it would help me. And that's why
the fact of the matter is the idiot, I'm not going to call the seller an idiot, but whoever before him, because when he got it, it was already like that. He didn't do the work for it, so I know it wasn't him. But the idiot before that idiot, or whoever, they literally cut the spring and installed these sketchy lowering links. Like, you'll see they're welded and it doesn't make any sense. And my other friend who looked at it said that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in the world. So it was weird, because I remember the bumps that I would go over, it was so bad because when it's lowered, you're not really, how do I say this? You're not really cushioned from the road, because when I test rode my new bike that I just bought, it's at stock height. In fact, it's actually very high for a bike, so I'm on the balls of my feet anytime I'm on it. It was so funny because when I went over curves, I naturally did this thing on the Gixxer where I would like scrunch up on the bike and talk in case I would go forward, and it would put my butt up in the air, and I didn't want to get thrown off the bike on a high side. I know that's extreme, but at very high speeds. So I did that on the new bike, and it was funny because the suspension, it has a Showa suspension, by the way, on the new bike. It just ate the bump in the pavement. Oh my gosh, dude. Showa suspension is amazing. But yeah, back to this whole thing. So number one was the fact that it was lowered. I didn't know about it, right? I couldn't really drag knee properly because there was one instance where I was taking a curve on the highway at about 90 miles an hour and I had improper foot positioning. Okay, not that big of a deal, but it was a little sharper, and I was wearing boots, thank God, but the side, it was happening on the left side, right? The left side of my pinky toe hit the pavement at 90 miles an hour and got knocked back onto the foot peg, but it didn't really do anything. It was very light, but it was noticeable, which scared the absolute shit out of me. Granted, I had improper foot positioning, but if it was on a normal bike that wasn't lowered, that wouldn't have happened. So that scared the shit out of me, and that's when I was like, I need to get rid of this bike. I'm never buying a bike that's lowered. Never buy a bike that's lowered, by the way, guys. So yeah, that was just one of the instances on the lowering part, right? Okay, second point. I had already poured so much money. You guys saw that mechanic bill. That was not good. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to buy a bike off Marketplace, get it, and start riding. So between the initial $6,000, which was already overpriced, plus the almost $3,000 in repair, I was already in deep $9,000. Okay, so when I was talking to my mechanic, you know, talking about fixing the suspension, and let's say worst option, because I don't know, 400 minimum, maybe 500, and at that point, I'm flirting with about $10,000 on a 2007 Suzuki GSX-R600. Do you know how stupid that sounds? $4,000 is what I should have done. I mean, no, not for this guy. I should have bought it for $3,000 if I knew how much money I had to put into it. But at that point, with $9,000, you could buy like a 2021 or 2022 ZX6. Not the new one, because they're having factory problems right now. But, you know, you'll see that on the news, on your Instagram Reels, okay? Now, you know, third was the mileage, right? So we need to talk about this. I just learned this, and it was funny because right before I sold the bike and it crossed this threshold, I had to Google it because I actually had suspicions about it. My dad, my other friends had told me about it when I was talking about buying Facebook bikes. Once a bike crosses 20,000 miles on the odometer, that's like the equivalent of maybe like, I mean, in terms of price, that's close to about the, in terms of value, not in terms of performance, like the 100,000 mark for cars. You know how at about 100,000 miles a car can start to taper off its cost? Well, bikes on Marketplace, once they hit 20,000 miles, they actually start to lose a lot of their value, unless you're talking about an R6 that's been discontinued, but we're not talking about that, you know, in the grand scheme of things. 20,000 miles of that threshold, and you'll read on screen why. There's a lot of issues with, you know, the mileage. A lot of stuff starts to break. It has to be replaced at that point, you know, valve adjustments, all that type of stuff. That's why it starts to lose value, right? So looking at that, that was definitely one of the final nails in the coffin. But oh my gosh, the cone incident. You guys were there to watch that happen real time, my reaction. So a couple videos ago, I think the title was called Not Angry, Just Defeated. And I'm explaining why I was not angry, just defeated. So I had bought these custom fairings. They're the Gixxer fairings. I think it is K5 1000. The same one he wore when he went from Colorado Springs to Denver in 20 minutes. I was getting a Gixxer. It was actually not because of, well, it was a little bit because of Gixxer bra, but I wasn't really considering the purple and white until like about a month after I got the bike, because I was like, no, I actually just want a Gixxer because it's a Gixxer, right? Now, if you see on the site, they're about $655, $700 for the just for the one for the K5, right? If you guys didn't know, with Monster fairings, if you order a custom set for like a bike that's of the different year, they're gonna charge you $400 extra. I ended up paying $1,000 for custom fairings, purple and white split. I mean, it kind of was worth, if the bike didn't get into the crash, it would have been worth it because it was so nice, man. Purple and white split is just one of the best colorways. I can see why Gixxer wore them, you know? So one sunny day, you know, I put them on, and I remember, it's not funny, I shouldn't say that, but it was the first ride after I put them on because it had been raining all week, I remember, so my buddy put them on for me, and then it was the first ride I had with them, like out with the boys, right? And y'all watched what happened on that fateful Baltimore day, so I'm about to show the clip.
God! No! You see that? Holy what the dude?
Okay, so yeah, after watching that, you saw, I know it was a little long, I'm sorry, but we were ripping for a while, right? And after you rip, I don't know how to describe this to someone who doesn't ride like, you know, either a 600 or a 1000, but after you rip, maybe this is just Jay, I go into like relax mode when we're cruising at the speed limit, just for like a minute or two, because when you're ripping, you're totally locked in. You have absolutely no chances to mess up. So you're like devoting all your mental energy, right? So it feels good to relax for a little bit. So I had gone into relax mode. I wasn't really like looking forward. I was looking down at the road because we had also crossed into uneven lanes grooved, as you saw. And with that, you got to be careful, because if you go over like a tiny little object, or, you know, a little rock pile on uneven lanes grooved, there is a high chance you're going to eat the pavement. So you really have to lock in, because I've just always been scared of uneven lanes grooved. It's like riding on butter. If any of you have ridden on it, right? And out of nowhere, that damn construction cone blew into my lane. And it was funny because if you slow down the video and look, remember, my buddy on the ZX-10 weaved right around it. And like, he almost, when I looked up, I was looking at him and I didn't really see the cone because he was weaving around it. And then it almost like it just appeared behind him, like a Super Mario freaking, you know, one of them traps that they come behind the go-karts or whatever. So the cone did slam into the front of the bike. The worst part was I thought it was going to topple me over. That's why you saw me crashing out over, because that was supposed to make me eat the pavement. When it hit the front of the bike, it actually went it shifted to the left side, and I think it was the front of the cone, or, you know, one part of it. It's, you know, as physics say, you know, object with, what's that physics law again? Oh, here we go. I feel like a guys. But anyways, it was Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So there was an equal and opposite reaction as I'm hitting the cone's hitting me at 65 miles an hour, right? So it hit the underside of my fairings and cracked them. Now you'll see one of the sides, one of the colors was fine. The other one was, you know, more ripped open. It's like, okay, most of the fairings are fine afterwards. You'll see the photo. The part was it started to create this weird parachute effect under the bike. Like I was catching air, dragging against the wind, and it was just pulling me side to side at like really high speeds. So I wanted to experiment because I was like really scared that one of my fairings was dragging when we were ripping. So I pinned it to try to see what it was like, and I tested it. So at about 155 miles an hour, it was strange. It was like weird turbulence that I'm not used to. The bike was getting pulled left and right whenever air would come up under the fairings and just push it, you know, wherever the wind wants to. That's why fully faired bikes are so much better than nakeds, by the way, but I digress. 60 to 160, you know, those types of pulls. The air flew, you know, it was so weird. It felt like a weird anchor was just attached to the frame. The bike just couldn't cleanly cut through the air anymore, and that really pissed me off, because it was defeated, actually, not really pissed me off, right? The paint was flawless. Even my buddy said it looked beautiful, because the day I got it on, I was like, dude, this is my bike. It's unique. There's only one in the state of Maryland, and I was like, this is beautiful, dude. Yeah, so when I hit the cone afterwards, I was just broken, dude. Mentally, I was like, I don't want this bike anymore. Oh my gosh. Because you spend all this time and money to build something you're proud of, and then one freak accident, not freak, but you know what I mean, unravels it in a split second. Just, that was it for me. Financially, emotionally, mentally, I was just like, I'm done, dude. Just like, not even mad, just disappointed. Y'all's parents ever been just not even mad, just disappointed? That's how I was with the world at that point. So yeah, I knew the bike had to go, because there were just, you know, all the reasons I listed. It's like, this thing's being a money pit. I've already maxed it out. It's gonna lose value if I don't put the, you know, the OEM fairings on and try to sell it. I was like, you know what, this bike has just been nothing but, I mean, actually that's not true. It was a really nice bike. I got to max it out, do crazy things on the highway, but I had already been comfortable taking curves on the highway at 140, 150, and I'm like, you know what, it might be time to upgrade. But yeah, this has been a whole crazy learning experience. I learned a lot in terms of skill on the highway. I think that the biggest thing that someone watching this video who wants to buy a bike or get into bike, the biggest lesson is patience, because I had to learn it the hard way. You guys just learned all of it. A lesson in awareness, you know, how forgiving the resale market can be, especially with Facebook Marketplace. And let me be honest with you, you can't trust anyone on Facebook. Can't trust anyone. It's a platform full of half-truths, bad angles, people hiding damage, people lying about maintenance, people trying to offload their headaches onto you so that you have to pay for it. Like, the seller didn't even mention anything about the chopped rear spring, never said a word about the leaking forks. He just smiled and told me how great the bike was and just handed me the keys with confidence, but he was confident with passing off his problems to me. You start off hyped, you know, the power, the looks, the rose-colored glasses, guys, it really got me. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like it ruined my life. It sucked. It set me back a little bit on money, you know. Obviously I'll make it back, but it was enough to make me feel dumb, embarrassed, and an idiot. Not just because I got ripped off, but deep down I knew better. I was just being a stupid, impatient. Remember, there are 5 lessons that we can sum this up in. Don't shop with emotion. Don't go alone if you don't know what you're doing. Don't trust clean plastics, especially. Don't ignore red flags. And seriously, don't trust a Facebook Marketplace listing that sounds too good to be true. Oh, it runs and drives, this and that. Dude, if they don't have maintenance records, it's probably a piece of let's be honest. Well, I mean, that's not true, but depending on the mileage, but that's very nuanced, right? So yeah, if you're watching this and you haven't made your first big purchase yet, or you're ready to get, you know, your second bike, which is a 600 or 1000, please slow the fuck down. Don't be a like I was, okay? Because if this story really does help one person avoid getting like I did, and that 2800 wasn't a loss, it was an investment into you guys. But yeah, even though the 600 may be gone, I got something big coming. Well, actually, I already have it, but yeah, you heard that right. I've stepped into the deep end. I can't really reveal what it is yet to you viewers, but soon, after this video, the next video will be me revealing it. I'm so excited, guys. Oh my gosh, yeah. This is gonna be great, and I'm excited to bring you guys along for the ride. But yeah, if you found value in this video and you've actually made it to the end, just hit that like button and drop your first, you know, your worst Facebook Marketplace horror story. Like, if you've ever gotten burned, I actually want to hear, because I've heard some guys get burned worse than I have. But yeah, I joined the club of idiots who have bought really bad, or you know, bikes or cars. So yeah, just ride safe, ride smart, never rush the ride. I'll see you guys next week.